Well, good morning, class, or good afternoon whenever you get to read this or get to review this. Today's April 3rd, Friday. This is part A of lecture. This will probably be the longest part. Got lots of slides to talk about. Just want to go back, just keep reiterating this point that break even, profit or loss is based on three things: annual cow cost, percent calf crop, and average weaning weight of your calves. Hopefully by now you've really appreciate the relationship between these three things. All right, we're going to go back and do a little review today. I want to tie together really tables 5.9, 5.14, and 5.18. We haven't looked at 5.18 yet, but we will in just a second. And this is just looking at ways or what happens when you increase percent calf crop or increase weaning weight. What can that do to help your break even? So for 5.9, remember we kept annual cow cost the same, we kept weaning weight the same, and we changed calf crop by 5% increments. And the point is that increments, the 5% increments, are not equal. They don't have equal effects on break even as you get closer to 100. In the same token, when we kept calf crop steady and you kept annual cow cost steady, and we increased average weaning weight by 50 pounds, not each 50 pounds was not equal, did not have an equal effect on break even. Increasing 50 pounds of whack did not have an equal impact on break even as we got closer and closer and closer to 600. And that's because 50 pounds is a greater percentage of 300 than it is 600. And 5% is a greater percentage of 70% than it is 95%. So those two are pretty similar, the relationships, okay? But when we go to 5.18 in just a second, we can see that when we reduce or increase the annual cow cost leg of that stool, the increments will always be equal on break-even price, because money spent is money spent, or money saved is money saved. It's just money, no matter your current annual cow cost. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's 5.18. All we're changing here is annual cow cost. We're assuming an 85% calf crop and a 500 pound weaning weight. Okay, so everything's the same. 0.85 times 500 is 425 pounds of weaned calf per cow in our herd. Here we're changing annual cow cost by $50 a time. So $350 all the way up to $750. Okay, so increasing our annual cow cost this way or decreasing our annual cow cost back down this way. And you notice that the change in break-even price, represented here by these purple dots, with an 85% calf crop and a 500 pound weaning weight, a $50 reduction or a $50 increase in annual cow cost has the same effect on break-even, about $11.77 a hundredweight. So if we move that decimal two places, it's about 12 cents a pound. So for every, given the same calf crop and the same weaning weight, every $50 you save or every $50 you spend more on your cows will either increase or decrease respectively your break-even price by about 12 cents a pound. Okay, so this is the only concept that doesn't diminish as we get closer to 100 or doesn't diminish as we get closer to 600, like the previous two tables, 5.8 and 5.14. Okay, I hope that makes sense, because money is money. Money's money. Now I agree, $50 should be a greater percent of 350 than it is of 700, but it doesn't work out that way, because money is money and pounds of weaned calf per cow are two different principles that don't behave the same. So changing annual cow cost does not behave the same as the other two traits or the other two factors. For every change of $50 we get, we can either increase or decrease our break even by about 12 cents a pound. All right, new picture, new figure. Okay, I thought you might be curious, where do most commercial cow-calf ranches spend the money within the ACC, within the annual cow cost? So I really like this pie chart. It shows us that the bulk of our annual cow cost is going to be dedicated to feed. and that would be feed, grain, hay, protein tubs, range cubes, mineral. Okay, 61% of our annual cow costs pretty much go to feed. 4% vet, vaccine, and drugs. 9%, a little bit more, labor. Bull cost and AI breeding, so buying semen or paying somebody to breed our cows and buying the semen, 6%. Marketing, about 4%. Utilities and fuel, about 7%. Machinery repair, cost of machinery and repairs, 5%. Interest on any operating loans, 3%, and the smallest is obviously the 2% here is in the other category. So if I were to ask you what are the biggest contributors to our annual cow cost on the quiz Monday, what are the top 3? You would say feed, labor, and bull cost. Feed, labor, bull. Feed, labor, bull. Feed, labor, bull would be the top 3 categories or line items that eat up that annual cow cost. Table right below it, 519, pretty cool. Just compares the West Coast, the Central, which would be us, Northern Plains, that would be Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska. Southwest, that would be New Mexico, Arizona. Southeast, that would be probably Georgia, Alabama, Florida. Mid-South, that would be like Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe Missouri a little bit. Okay, so anyway, variable costs. Variable costs means they can change every year. And so really what I want you to think about is everything from here to here would be, in my eyes, considered annual cow cost. That's total variable cost. That's things we can change. Okay? So land payment, house payment, car payment, that's nothing in here. So these are called variable costs simply because they can vary from year to year. So I'm not going to require you know each and every part of this. I just want to show you the similarities. So if you look at 2015, and 2015 is when we had a drought, and 2015 was calves were bringing a lot of money, and we'll see that in a minute. But all I want you to focus in on here is feed costs are similar. Feed costs are similar pretty much across the board. You can see most people are spending around $400. Now the Southwest, I guess that's because they're in a desert land, and so they have a very low stocking rate. They're spending less than $300. And in the Southeast, these are small operators, and so they probably spend more on hay. And so does the Mid-South. So Southeast and Mid-South around $500. Pretty much everybody's around $400 here, and then the Southwest is the cheapest. But the point is, you don't have large differences. Like you don't have some places spending $1,000 and some places only spending $100. As you look at these other costs, again, they're pretty similar across the board. Okay? And so at the end of the day, when we tie everything together and we put it in an annual cow cost category, we have annual cow costs ranging from $500 all the way up to $773. So that gives you an idea of what most commercial cow-calf ranches spend each year across the nation in annual cow cost. Okay? If we go down here to revenue, that would be revenue per cow, because annual cow cost is figured on per cow basis, and revenue per cow would be calculated on a per cow basis. But remember, not every cow in the herd brought in a calf at weaning, I would imagine. Okay, so this takes into account average weaning weight. This takes into account percent calf crop. So here we got calf sales. Okay, so again, pretty high numbers because remember this is 2015. So calf sales per cow range from high 700s to over 1,000. You see most ranches sold some cull breeding stock, and so we would divide the total sale of the breeding we would divide the total sale price of all culls sold by the number of cows in our herd. So every cow got a break here, $150, $200 break on their annual cow cost because we sold some culls. And so all they did here was they added the price of the calves and the price of the culls divided by the cows in the herd to give us a total here. Okay, so total revenue per what? Per cow. And so in 2015, you can see that most ranches in most parts of the country made more than that typical $100 to $150 a head. You know, the ranchers in the West, they made over $500 a cow. That's pretty good. And the lowest, simply because of the high annual cow costs, were the Mid-South and the Southeast. They didn't make quite as much in 2015. But I thought I'd give you a good idea. You can see here they itemized the annual cow cost into different categories, and just to show you the similarities across the board. Okay, I've got some yellow highlights here and here and here and here and here, kind of some outliers, if you will. So you can see, like in the Northern Plains, they didn't spend much on bulls, and the Southeast, they spent a lot on fuel and machinery repair, and so did the Southeast. So there is some variation in these costs, no doubt, but when we add them all up, you can see that most folks are spending between $500 and, let's just say, between $500 and $8 per cow on their ranch for annual cow cost. Okay, so that's some new information for our lecture today. I also want to go back and visit some more about breeding seasons and calving season. I'm a big proponent of having a breeding season, and if you have a breeding season, you automatically will have a calving season. And again, I want to show you the importance of looking at when your calves are born within that calving season. So just a little description on calving seasons. Most calving seasons will last from as little as 45 days to upwards of 120 days. And the concept is your calving season will always equal the length of your breeding season. And to have a calving season, you must have a breeding season. Why is that? Well, if you only expose your cows to bulls for 60 days, then 285 days from when they were bred, they're going to calve. And so if you have a 60-day breeding season, you're going to have a 60-day calving season. I think having a calving season is an excellent way to monitor cow fertility. You know which cows calved and which didn't. Hopefully you palpated them before calving season so you know if they're open or not. You can manage body condition score. Wednesday we talked about body condition score, so you know your calving season's coming up, and if you notice some of your cows are a little thin, you can maybe step up the nutrition on them a little bit, or sort off the cows that are thin and put them in a separate trap and feed them a little bit better so they calve in that body condition score of 5. Looking at the distribution of calves within the calving season, it's always a good idea to divide the length of your calving season into 3 parts. So divide it into a third and a third and a third. And it'd be really good if 60% of our calves were born in the first third, 30% born in the second third of the calving season, and only 10%, very little, born in the last third of the calving season. That means our cows were cycling and fertile when we turned the bull out. They were ready to go. So I like to refer to this as the 60-30-10 rule. Let's get 60% of our cows bred in the first third of the breeding season, so they'll calve in the first third of the calving season, followed by 30%, followed by 10%. And just to show you this a little bit better, I'm going to go back to figure 5-6 for a second. And so here's figure 5-6, and I did the math, and this is an example of a 75-day calving season that started on March 19th, first calf born, and last calf born was on June. Ooh, I made a mistake. I apologize. Made a mistake. That's not July, that's June. My bad. I apologize. I was thinking July because I was thinking the breeding season. All right. So note to self, that's June 10th. And I'll fix that before I put this on Blackboard. Okay? I'll fix that portion before I put it on Blackboard. So June 10th, June 10th, June 10th. So I went in here and divided up into first 21 days, the second 21 days, and I know this is longer than 21 days. I understand that. Okay. But even though it says here 7%, so 7% of the calves were born here, 37% were born here, and 56 were born here. So that's kind of like my rule of thumb, my goal of 60, 30, 10. So they hit it pretty good. The point being, to have this calving season, the cows had to be put with the bulls last year starting on May 12th. So on May 12th, turn the bulls out. This cow was in heat. She was in estrus. She got bred and she calved March 19th. So to have this calving season, this ranch would need this breeding season. Okay? And our breeding season would go from May 12th to July 25th. I know that's correct. That's 75 days. And my point is, these cows right here, they have a pretty good chance of not getting bred by July 25th. And that's what worries me a little bit. And so these cows right here, even though there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they could end up open because they were so late calving. They actually calved when the bulls were turned, after the bulls were turned out. Okay, so ideally, if I own this ranch or I manage this ranch, I would like to take these cows and try to scoot them up here and move them up here the best I could. I might feed them a little better. I might early wean their calves. There's a lot of tricks we can use to get this group of cows back over here, because there's a break here of only 4 days, but there's a break here, and so I'd like to get some more cows over here, or maybe move some of these cows into the second 21 days. That really gives you a good idea of how you're doing as far as fertility, and are you managing your cows right, and are they in fact ready to rebreed when you turn the bulls out. But once again, a March 19th to a June 1st calving season would have had to had a May 12th to July 25th last year as a breeding season. So I hope that makes some sense. So let's just say, for example, this was 2020. 2020. So we got calves on the ground, Here we are in April. We're about halfway through calving. So I guess we're about here. So we're not quite halfway through calving. Well, we need to get calves born because we're turning bulls out May 12th. Okay? We're turning bulls with cows on May 12th, 2020. And then if we do that next year, 2021, our calves will start dropping on March 19th, just like they did this year. Okay? Hope that makes some sense. All right, just to reiterate breeding seasons. They're about the same, 45 to 120. They're going to always equal the length of the calving season. If you have a shorter breeding season, you may require more bulls, because a bull can only service about 4 or 5 cows a day, and the typical ratio of bulls to cows, or cows to bulls, is about 25 cows to 1 bull. So that would be like for a 60 or an 80 or a 90-day breeding season. If we jacked it up to, or decrease it down to 45 days, we might need to put in, say, 1 bull per 15 to 20 cows. Okay? And I'm not going to be labor anymore table 516, but 516 showed that most ranches do not have a breeding season, and most cows, so this is different. This is looking at all the ranches. That means more than half do not have a breeding season, which is kind of sad. But if we look at the cows in the United States, almost half are bred and during one breeding season. So that's good. So almost half the cows are bred in one breeding season, if we look at just the cows. But if we look at the individual ranches, and remember there's a lot of little ranches, 54% of the ranches have no breeding season. And that's what we're showing in table 5. A little bit more on managing weaning weight, reiterating the fact that crossbreeding can bump weaning weight by 20% versus purebred calves. Well, how's that possible? Well, the calves are crossbred. Okay, so it'll have a 10 to 20% higher weaning weight simply because it's an A by CB. So it's a 3-way cross. So mama's a CB and calf daddy is an A. So he's 50% A, 25%, 25%. Plus, if mamas are truly a C by B, they're better milkers, better mamas. Okay, and so that can bump it another 10 to 20%. So you add these percents together, you can get upwards of 20% increase in weaning weight if your cows are crossbred. We've talked about that before. And then if our calves are also crossbred with a different breed than the mama. So we're going to look at table 517 here just a second. And we're going to look at performance variations within a breed and performance variations across a breed. Okay? And we're going to look at ways to optimize our genetics and use crossbreeding to maximize our profit. So let's take a look at table 517. Okay, here we go. We're looking at a two-breed crossbred F1 calf. The cow and the bull would be purebred, and the breeds are A and B. You can pick any two breeds you want. And all this is showing us is how heterosis works. So we got a break-even price over here, no doubt. We're in the cow-calf chapter, so break-even price is important. What's our calf crop? 85%. What's our annual cow cost? $500. Okay. So we're looking at a 5% bump in heterosis. That's what number 2 says. Okay, a 5% bump due to heterosis. And that's because we use low-performing sires and low-performing dams. Here's our weaning weight. Sire had a weaning weight of 450. Mama had a weaning weight of 410. What's the average? 430. So if you had 450 and 410, you get 860. Divide that by 2, you get 430. A little bit better bull and a little bit better cow of breed A and B. Weaning weight 485, 465. What's the average? 475. Real good daddy, real good mama. Two different breeds. Weaning weight 540. Mama's weaning weight was 500. Average was 520. Well, because of heterosis, we're going to get a better weaning weight from our crossbred calves. So the weaning weight of our crossbred calf is going to beat the average weaning weight of the mom and the dad every single time. Now that's just not always true, because if you used a high A bull and a medium B cow, the calf would probably not beat the high A bull. Let's just do that for example. Let's just throw that out there. Let's say we used 540. We used a high, really good bull of breed A, so that's 540. And let's say we had medium quality of mama cows of breed B, that's 465. We add those two together, we get 1,005 pounds. We divide that by 2. So our weight would be 502. Okay, our average would be 502 here. And then if we multiply that by 5%, let's see if I did that right. Let's see, that'd be 521. That might not be true. But believe me, I've seen where calves won't beat their daddy. But right here they're showing you that this calf, well, the way they got this table, it's not going to work. So they're saying that the calves, at a minimum, the F1 calves, at a minimum, are going to weigh at weaning 5% more than the average of the parents. Let me show you how that works. All right, so let's make sure the math is right. So let's do the first one. So let's take 452, enter that in our calculator, multiply that by 0.95, and you get 429.4. Okay, 429.4. So that's what our author is doing here. Their author is saying at a minimum, we can expect the calves, because of heterosis, to be 5% better than the average of the parents. Okay, so this is encouraging everybody to crossbreed. Remember, the crossbred, only crossbred here is the calf. Mama and daddy are purebred, mama and daddy are purebred, mama and daddy are purebred. So what this is saying is, if you use really good bulls on your really good purebred cows, your break-even price is going to be lower than if you picked sorry bulls of breed A and your cows were pretty sorry of breed B. Your break even is going to be $1.30. Okay. So what is their calf crop? 85%. What's their annual cow cost? So this just shows you that F1 calves are pretty good calves, and they will beat the average of their parents. They will beat the average of their parents by at least 5%. At least 5%. Okay. So really emphasizing the point that we need to crossbreed in a commercial cow-calf operation. All right, last topic for this Part A lecture. What about creep feeding your calves? Will creep feeding your calves increase their weaning weight? You better believe it, no doubt. But it comes at a cost, and so you have to run the numbers. So what is creep feeding? Creep feeding is allowing calves access to a very highly palatable, high-protein, mineral-fortified pelleted feed or a loose feed. Now, if this was the feed, you'd probably want to add a little bit of molasses to this to tie up some of the dust so these calves wouldn't get pneumonia. Okay, but this shows what a creep feeder looks like. Here's some pelleted creep feed made by Lone Star. And here's some Neutrina creep feed, and you can see the word creep right here, and you see little calves in here. So it's really good feed. It tends to be a little pricey. You either have to buy or rent a creep feeder like this one here and like this one here, and of course you have to fill it. And since we live in Texas, guess who else will come to the creep feeder? Wild hogs. So wild hogs can come in here and empty this whole creep feeder in one night. So that's also a problem with creep feeding calves in South Texas, because these hogs and javelinas will come in here and clean out your creep feed, okay, and drain this whole creep feeder. But yes, you can creep feed calves. Okay. So if you creep feed, you can add about 20 to 50 pounds to your weaning weights automatically, because they're going to get grass, they're going to get milk, and they're going to get your creep feed. The bad thing about creep feed is it costs about $23 a hundredweight, or 23 cents a pound, and that's about $11.50 a 50-pound sack if you bought it in a 50-pound sack. Now you can buy it in bulk, and it's a little bit cheaper than that. And like I just said previously, you either have to buy the creep feeder, or some feed stores and co-ops will let you rent them. But it's obviously a lot easier just to go ahead and buy them. What kind of feed conversion can you get with this feed? Okay. Well, to get 1 extra pound of calf gain, it's going to take about 5 to 7 pounds of feed. Okay. So that's called the gain to feed ratio. So to get 1 pound of gain out of a calf off of creep feed, you're going to have to feed 5, 6, or 7 pounds of creep feed. So let's do some math. Okay. Let's do some math. So we already established our creep feed cost, which is 23 cents a pound. We haven't calculated anything. I'm not going to calculate the cost of the creep feeder. I'm not going to calculate any rent. I'm just going to base it off of feed. Okay. So if we look at current wean calf prices, okay, now I'm going to throw some terms up here that are going to be new to you. You're going to see M and L, and you're going to see 1s and 2s. Okay, here's our steers, here's the heifers. Here's the weights at sale time, here's the weights at sale time, here's what they brought, here's what they brought, here's what they brought. Now, feeder calves are graded on frame size, just like you buy underwear, large, medium, and small. So a large frame size calf is bigger than a medium, and a medium big frame size calf is bigger than a small. So most ranchers will raise medium to large frame calves, and the number refers to how much muscle they have. So a muscle score of 1 is a lot of muscle, 2 is less, 3 is less than 2, 4 is less than 3. So the muscle scores go 1, 2, 3, 4. So a 4 would be like a roping steer. A 1 would be like a pretty good show calf. Okay, if that makes any sense. So I just pulled this market report off the internet. So medium and large frame number 1 steers weighing 400 to 500 brought $1.78. 500 to 600 brought $1.63. You can see the medium and large number 1s, these calves brought a little bit more than these calves. They shouldn't have, but they did. And then these calves brought a little bit less, which is typical. And then you can see heifers are bringing less than steers. Heifers will always bring less than steer calves, because steers do better in a feed yard than a heifer, and heifers will mature at a lighter weight and will be fatter at a similar weight to a steer. So heifers will always bring less than steers. The rule of thumb, heifers always bring less than steers if they're going through, leaving the ranch as wean calves, going to a stocker operation, and then going to a feed yard. They're less valuable. Heifers are less valuable than steers. So let's do some math. I say we got 500-pound calves, and I just kind of picked a number here in the middle, and I said, okay, let's say our calves in South Texas brought $1.65. This is the whole state of Texas. So let's say our calves, took them to Alice Sale Barn, took them to Three Rivers, took them to Edinburgh, they brought $1.65. What's the check for that calf? $825. Well, let's say we fed them creep feed, and our calves didn't weigh 500. They actually weighed 550 because we fed them creep feed for about 2 months. From about probably 3 to 5 months, or 4 to 6 months when we sold them, or we fed them creep feed. We put another 50 pounds on them. I'm not going to change the price. I'm going to say they still brought $1.65. So what was that 550-pound calf total value? $907.50. So if we put $907.50 here and we subtract this from it, we can see that our heavier calves brought total value of $82.50 more to the rancher. We divide that by the 50 pounds that we put on extra, that 50 pounds right there. I want you to see, class, that those 50 pounds that we put on with creep feed, each one of those 50 pounds is not worth $1.65. That extra 50 pounds is only worth about 67 cents a pound. Okay? All I did is I said, okay, I got calf here, weighed 500 pounds, did not get creep feed. What was he worth? $825. I got a 550-pound calf in the same trailer, off the same ranch. He got creep feed. He's worth $1.65. Also, he's bringing $907. That's an $82 difference. If we divide that $82 by the 50 pounds more this guy had, you can see that it's only 67 cents a pound. Okay? So, no doubt we made another $82.50 from this crep-fed calf. But remember, it took 6 pounds of feed to get a pound of gain. And it cost us 23 cents for every pound of feed times 50 pounds of gain. Okay? So feed cancels with feed, gain cancels with gain. We're left with dollars. Feed and feed cancel, gain and gain cancel. We do the math. Okay? 6 divided by 1, 0.23 divided by 1. Multiply those two together, multiply it by 50 pounds. And we quickly see that, yes, we made $82.50 extra, but we had spent about $69 in feed at a minimum to get that $82.50 extra dollars. So think about this. If you throw in the cost of the crate feeder, and if you throw in the hogs ate the feed too, it may be getting pretty close here where it might be a wash and you don't make as much as you thought you did. So yes, the heavier calf brought more total dollars. And yes, we had to buy the creep feed. And I didn't include the price of the feeder or the waste that we get from the hogs. So I'm not saying not to creep feed, but if you decide to creep feed, you better run the numbers, because you could be spending more than you're getting back in total value. Okay? So once again, 500-pound calf, total value. 550-pound calf, total value. How did he get the extra 50 pounds? Well, we crep fed him. What did it cost to creep feed him? To get those 50 pounds of extra gain, it cost us $69. Okay? So a little bit of egg business, a little bit of math in there for you. All right? Okay, that's it for part A. Now part B.